Okay, we are here. So, hi everybody, and hi everybody on Instagram. Welcome to our third and final installment of our teaching artist interview conversation. And I'm very excited to be here. And if you see me doing this, it's because I'm looking there too. I'm very excited to be here with Nikole Rizzo, who actually, long story short, was one of the very first teaching artists that Fresh Theater Arts ever hired. So you've been with us for a while.
I'm an OG.
You're an OG. That's right. You are an OG. And so we're gonna have a conversation, and we're gonna see who signs on to follow, and then we'll go from there. So, hi Nikole.
Hi, Tova.
How are you?
Oh, I am fine and dandy.
Same. Like we planned that. We did. So I guess just to get the conversation started, and this is how we began our previous conversations with the other panel of teaching artists. If you wouldn't mind quickly, or not quickly, because it's just us, telling me a little bit about what your story is. So by your story, I mean your theatrical background, where your experiences have taken you, and then you can end it by saying what you're currently working on. Oh, and sorry, if you could also just share with us before that, what specialty do you teach for Fresh Theater Arts?
So for Fresh Theater Arts, I am sort of a jack of all trades. I do a lot of different things. Choreography, directing, prop making, you name it, I've done it, right?
Yep. Shopping,
set building, costuming, filling in for kids when they're not at rehearsal, right. all the things. I do all the things.
You schlep. You're a schlepper.
Yeah, all of the things. But that's me. That is me. So that's what's great about working with Fresh Theater Arts, is that I get to flex all of those different muscles that I have. So that's what's wonderful about working with you and Fresh Theater Arts, is that I get to do all of those things, and you don't necessarily get to do that all of the time. So
you're welcome. And thank you.
So my background is I was very theatrical from a young age, and my parents stuck me in theater camp when I was too young to go to theater camp, but my mom pulled some strings and was able to get me in a little earlier than usual. And I went, and I completely fell in love with it, with performing and doing anything theatrical. And this camp was very hands-on. We did all sorts of art projects, and we did, what we do in theater camp with Fresh Theater Arts is we made our sets, we made our costumes, we made our props, we did all of that stuff. So I learned how to do those things from a really young age. And then once I was old enough to take like a proper acting class, I started taking acting classes, and I very distinctly remember my acting teacher explaining what Broadway was to me one time, and I was like, wait, what? That's a thing? You can like act and sing and dance at the same time, and it's like your job? That's amazing. Like a life, like our class was like in a church somewhere. I grew up in Massachusetts. It was like this little quaint Massachusetts town church basement. And I was like, and that's where I learned that Broadway was a thing. And I started listening to musicals, and my parents had like records of musicals, and me and my brother used to do Cats in the living room and put on any sort of show that we could. Well, I dragged him along for that unwillingly. And then I started doing community theater, probably like elementary school age, and worked my way up through community theater. And by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I think, was when I did my first professional production. And by the time I was in high school, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to be an actor. And I was also, when I was in high school, I started getting recruited by my acting studio to start teaching younger kids. So that's when I started teaching, was in high school. And I also was a student teacher my senior year of high school for freshman acting class in high school.
Wow.
So I got a lot of teaching experience before I even graduated high school. Then I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York City and for musical theater. And I received my certificate in musical theater. And from there, I started booking jobs. And then somewhere along the line, I stumbled upon Fresh Theater Arts, and here we are.
I know. It's like a funny thing. I don't even remember. How did you hear about us?
So it was a friend, my friend Danny.
Oh, because it went out over the NYU listserv?
Yes. Yep. He was like, oh, I saw this job posting that I think you would be like totally interested. And I was like, yes, I am interested in that.
That's so funny. And I think you might have been maybe the third person that I interviewed at that time. And I remember we were sitting in Starbucks, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, she's great. Let's go. and it's been uphill from there, Nikole. It's been uphill from there, because who knew that the world was going to introduce us possibly to our greatest creative challenge yet, right? Like, I can't even send you shopping for me because I can't even go near you, It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, thank you for sharing your story about how you got here. I guess I kind of want to take the next question, in that direction of, obviously now we're in this COVID universe, and so all of us as artists have been significantly affected by the situation, not like just personally with whatever we have going on in our lives, but in terms of our careers and how we've built them, and that large portions of that have had to go on pause, and so, and that's regardless of the financial situation, right? But I guess my question to you is, how have you managed to, take the things that you learned, whether it's in your degree or like throughout your career, and how, if you have, how have you been able to apply that to this new medium? And if you haven't yet, then what are some ideas that you've been thinking about in terms of how you can continue to just keep your creativity going? Because I think a big point in the conversations, on Tuesday we had 4 panelists, last week we had 3 panelists. It's this way that we've had to think about our own practice, right? And we're creative people, so it should be easy to create ourselves out of this Zoom box, but it's not that easy because we're not trained to do this, So I know it's a long-winded question, so whatever part of that you want to answer, go for it.
Well, I'm going to be completely 110% honest here when I say that when all of this happened, it was heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. I had 5 shows in the works, one of which I was performing in. The other 4 I was either directing or choreographing or co-directing. And then I also had another one that I was pre-contract for once the show that I was doing ended. And everything got canceled. So it was just like, all of a sudden, everything that you worked so hard on is just like ripped away from you. So it, like, you think about all of our students and the kids in all different schools and high schools and that were working on shows and pieces of theater, that it just got canceled. And it was so sad, like, to think of all of I go through my notebooks and I'm like, look at all of this choreography that never got seen.
Yeah.
you know, and it's never going to be the same again because I'm never going to completely remember exactly the way that I did it. And it's never going to be the same people, you know? So it was really hard for me for, a good couple of months. Um, I, I found it, I know that a lot of people were very excited to watch certain performances and things like that that were being shown on television. I found it very difficult to watch those things. Even Hamilton the first time was really difficult for me.
Well, Instagram Live, we were supposed to go.
Yes.
When were we going? In April?
We were going on April Fool's Day.
Well, yeah, we fools. Yeah, we were supposed to go, which is insane. This is insane. Yeah.
But and for me, there's nothing quite like being in the theater. So the fact that not only did all of the things that I'm passionate about get taken away from me to participate in, but all of the things that I like, when I go and bring myself on a date, I'm going to see a Broadway show, or I'm going to see some sort of performance, or I'm going to, rehearsals for me are my me time. Like that's my way of relaxing. You want to talk about like hobbies and doing things like that. Like, yes, I like to craft and those sort of things, but I feel my best when I'm in a rehearsal. Or when I am going to perform, that's when I feel my best. So it was rough. It was really rough for a couple of months. I really started to reflect on ways that I could like improve myself as an actor and as an artist. I've been doing a series called The Artist Way, which is a book series, and the author's name is out of my head right now. But it's basically like a workbook, and you go through, and I joined actually a group of a bunch of different artists from all different types we have writers in the group, actors, songwriters, all different types of artists. And it's just really improving on your self-worth as an actor, I guess, and things like that. And so that's been really helpful in having me like really take a pause to go back and look back and see which things helped me, which things hurt me, how I can just keep going and keep that stamina going without there being something there to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because that piece of the puzzle is a lot of what we've been talking about in the past panels also. What's interesting is that it's a piece of advice that we're trying to give our students, but I think what's so profound about what you're saying is that we should really turn it inwards on ourselves. The idea has been, you now in this Zoom land have access to all of these different kinds of teachers that A, you might not have been able to afford before, B, you wouldn't have taken the time to do it, and C, you don't have to commute to go there, and so take advantage of that. But I wonder, as artists, if we think of ourselves last, right? Because we're giving ourselves to our students, which is great, and I'm all for it, and that's what I'm passionate about. But being able to like take pause, I think it's great what you're doing. Being able to take pause to say, I'm also going to use this time to hone in on my own craft, right? Which is incredible, because when else, we joke that we're always in the car, right? That we operate out of the car. You couldn't take a class in the car, you have to drive, right? So when else would you really have had the time to learn more skills, right? And to take class, not just as a student, like a young student, but as like an ancient student, like me. I wasn't going to call you ancient, but like me, So yeah, that's great. That's really great.
And then I've been in my vocal lessons, and that took a little while to get back up and going too. It was like everybody was sort of in this like gross feeling slump for a little while. And I feel like as a community of artists, we are starting to come out of that. I do have some work now, which I'm excited about. And without this work, without coronavirus, I don't think that this work would have happened. I connected with an old friend who's a playwright, who also connected with an old friend who wanted to produce a play that she wrote. and wanted to figure out a way to do it virtually. And I got cast in it, and now we're doing this virtual play, radio play, virtual thing. It's like every element that you could take all mashed together.
Yeah.
And it's being produced out of California, which I wouldn't have been able to go audition. So it's just like you were saying before, like I wouldn't have had these opportunities to work with a production company out of California, you know, living in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily my work is out of New Jersey and New York. So
Right.
that this has afforded me those opportunities. So,
and maybe that's the silver lining. I mean, I don't know if we have to find it, but maybe that's I hope, and I think it's look, we've been able to contract with a lot of Broadway artists that I never would have been able to get in touch with before, right? So, and they're available. Like, it's not even, I think they're always willing, most of them, but they don't usually have time because these contracts are so tight, right? They're so available right now. So, this is I have to use the word special. Maybe it's a special time, maybe. I don't want to commit to that. Yeah, okay. That's a good one. I think we should get a thesaurus and try and come up with other words other than special, because that makes it sound positive. But who knows? So that's great. Good luck. Break a leg with your show. That's really exciting. And the workbook that you're doing also sounds really cool, because
it's great. It's Julia Cameron. So this is the book. This is the main book that it's based off of, and it's The Artist's Way. And you can do it by yourself. But she has a whole bunch of different books, but this is the first one, and it's week by week. So you read a chapter a week, and there are like different activities and challenges that you can do, and it encourages you to journal every day, and to take yourself on artist dates, which is kind of hard with COVID, but like it can just be, sitting yourself in a room and watching a movie that you haven't been able to watch, that you never got the time to watch before or whatever. So alone. You should be alone.
I'd love to be alone.
I'm not doing too well when it comes to the artist dates. I will admit that, because I'm alone very seldomly.
I'm with you, lady. I'm with you. That's cool. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. So I guess to move on to the next question. This was a question actually that we got when we posted on Instagram that we were going to be doing this live. So one of the questions was, how did you know that, I'm reading it, that's why I'm looking down. How did you know that theater was your passion, and what made you say no to all the doubters out there?
I just felt like it always felt like home to me. Whenever I was involved in some sort of theatrical something, it felt like home. And that's why I do so much and I learned so much, is because I always wanted to be involved. Even if it wasn't on stage, I wanted to be involved somehow. Because that's where I always felt most comfortable. So I think that that's how I figured out that that's where I needed to be, and that's what I wanted to do. It takes a while. I mean, I had supportive parents, so that's a plus. I know a lot of people don't have supportive parents that are artists. And I pretty much just like blocked it, like had blockers on from a really early age, because I knew that that's what I wanted to do and that's what I enjoyed doing. So, some people enjoy going to soccer. That wasn't my thing. It was going to acting class and stuff like that. And, and I wasn't afraid to make a fool of myself and, be silly. But I think that that's something that as an actor, you also learn at a really young age. If you can learn to get over that hump of not being afraid of looking silly or anything like that, then you sort of like block it out, kind of.
Yeah.
I think that it got a little bit harder as I got older because you start dealing with rejection a lot more. And I know that that's not really necessarily a naysayer, but it is difficult. And I would say like at like fresh out of college and stuff like that, it was frustrating. But now I'm at a point where it doesn't bother me so much. And I'm sort of just, it wasn't for me, or that project wasn't for me. I wasn't for them. And I've really learned that everybody has their little spot in the puzzle.
Yeah, yeah. Something that came up was, you know, the confidence that you need to have in order to realize that you are going to be the best version of you, not in comparison to other people, right? And so as long as you can hold on to that, like the only person that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. Are you doing the best that you can? Are you doing the best that you can? Is there something else that you can do? Is there another class that you could take? But you don't have to, when you go to an audition, look around the room and compare yourself to all the other brunettes or all the other blondes that are sitting in the room. You are uniquely you and uniquely special. And the confidence that comes in understanding that is what helps you manage the rejection and deal with all of the doubters that are out there.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. It's hard going into a room full of 50 to 100 people and having to sit there and listen to conversations and things like that. I mean, and I took a lot of time to be able to figure out how I could like put myself in almost a meditative state. So I'm blocking everything out and not psyching myself out, or, listening to the person in the room sing before me or anything like that. And I've like, it's taken me a really long time to get to that point where I'm not as, because that's the stuff that makes you nervous, and that's the stuff that psychs you out, is listening to all of that noise. And when you can sort of block it out, you sort of get into this like meditative state, I guess, that you can really focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's a long time. It's not, I mean, kudos to anybody who can just like do it and not have to worry about it. I wish I was that way, but I'm not. And I'm like, I hate auditioning. To be completely honest, I hate it because it's exhausting blocking all of that out and psyching yourself up and thinking, am I going to mess up these words? Am I going to be off key? Am I going to forget my monologue? Am I going to do this? Am I like, it's crazy. And then you never know what you're going to walk into when you walk into the room.
Sometimes they'll just be texting and not even look up at you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I think also based on what you're saying, it's like the key is though to realize that like this is your passion, and like other people don't get to dictate how you pursue your passion. You could even say, I'm going to spend, I don't know if anybody would say this to themselves, but you could. I'm going to spend 30 years of my life doing this and get rejected every day. And then, you know what? I know I tried, and I'm going to move on to the next thing. And that's fine, But I think realizing that, like, you are in control and that it is your choice, and that choice is good. It's a good choice, right? And so even for those students, I get a lot of that also. Like, my parents aren't supportive of me, so what do I do? My parents want me to major in something real, so what do I do? My parents, and I'm just like, just do you. Like, do you. And if you flop, you flop. And then at least you tried. Especially now with this, like, go back and get a second master's. Go back and, it's everybody's online now. The way that education is going to be moving forward is just, at least higher education, it's going to be completely different after this, because now we know we can, So, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's super great. I'm sorry that the auditioning is a pain in the butt. That's why I don't do it.
Another like tip or trick, I guess, is that if you think of it, at least for me, if I think of it as this is my moment, I'm going in and I'm performing for these people. Right. So whether or not you get a part, you get a callback, you get anything, you are getting however many minutes to just go in there and perform and do what, like, that's ultimately my goal. So here I am getting a chance to do that. So I might as well like take that opportunity and make it worth it, whether it's just to me or to everybody in the room.
Yeah.
So I think that once I also started thinking of it that way, it became a little bit easier.
It's smart because, again, as performers, we want to be seen, right? And we get to dictate when those moments are. It doesn't have to be to a packed audience of 500 people. It could be to a room with a table and people that aren't even looking at us. That's okay. It could be that too. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so I got one more question.
Woohoo.
Okay, what is the big piece of advice either that somebody ever gave you about pursuing this as a career, or that made you interested in pursuing the arts as a career? Or what's like the one thing that you always want your students to know that you either get to tell them or you run out of time before you can tell it? Because I got a book of things that I never have a minute to tell anybody. Like, whoops.
So my biggest piece of advice, and I'm sure that it was told to me at some point, I'm not sure by who, is to do everything. And that sort of like trickles back to what I do with Fresh Theater Arts. I do everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to be involved in theater production or whatever it was, I would find a way to be involved, whether I was in the cast, whether I was pulling the curtain, whether I was stitching costumes, any of those things, I would find a way to get myself involved. And I learned so many different things that way. I'm also a professional stage manager. I learned how to stage manage. I learned how to make props and costumes, and I learned how to do airbrush makeup for Shrek one time because they were like, we need a second makeup person. I was like, sure, I'll learn how to do it. Airbrush the face. All of those things. So like it's always been like anything that I can do to help your production along, I will do, because I want to learn new things and I want to learn how to do different things, and I want to be able to immerse myself. And even if I'm not working directly in a show, which would be my ultimate goal, I'm an actor at first and that's what I love the most. But if I can't do that, then here's a plate of other things that I can do. And it makes you more well-rounded. I think it makes you a better actor, because you know that those lighting people are busting their butts back there to get you lit, because you've been in that position. You've been back there saying hold as a stage manager 50 million times during a tech rehearsal, and you know how frustrating it is. So I think that it makes your relationships with everybody in your production better. And I think, like I said, it makes you more well-rounded. It makes you more hireable.
Yeah.
And you never know, you may think that you want to be an actor, but then you try scenic design and you're like, whoa, this is something I really like doing, So I found out that lighting is something I really don't like doing.
Well, now that you say that, like, that's a big key also. Knowing what you don't like
Absolutely.
is almost equally as important as knowing what you do. And the only way that you figure that out is by putting your toe in every little bit. And there are, especially now with the way the technology is, there are so many different facets of this performing arts community, right? That there are careers, in all of these different areas that, unless you try it, you'll never know A, if you're good at it, or B, if you hate it, So yeah, it's great. Now I know that.
In college, my concentration was musical theater. So I took film class and acting for film and television, but it was a very small, limited class. We didn't do very much. And now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, oh, I wish I knew more about that. And now I'm sort of like seeking out how I can learn more about that and like build up the tools that I need to be able to submit for more of those things. Because right now I don't have all of the tools that I need in order to submit for all of those things. So had I known, I mean, of course, nobody knew that this was coming,
No.
but like, but like, had I have known when I was in college that like film and television would have been very appealing to me at one point, then I might have tried to pursue more classes in it, but
Right.
I don't know.
And
But
it'll be interesting to see how because there will be a post
mhm.
COVID, how the theatrical community is changed, right? Because, I mean, somebody was saying last week, they're submitting self tapes all the time now to audition for stuff. Maybe that's something that sticks. You won't have to go to the city to stand in line with hundreds of people to wait for your 2 minutes of, hope. Instead, you can get it right, do it in the comfort of your own home, click submit, bada bing, bada boom, and it's over. And more people will have an opportunity to do it in that way if this is something that sticks. So I wonder what post is going to be like.
Yeah, for me, it's sort of like there are a lot of pros and cons to it. I do better on my feet live, like one shot. When I submit my tapes or when I make my audition tapes that I've done during this, I have 5 billion takes that I do because I'm like, oh, I didn't like, oh, my hair's funky there. No, I did, like, the dog walked through that shot, and there's not a blank wall in my house, which has been such a terrible, like, I've had to like take down pictures and like try like angle. The bathroom is the best place for me to shoot anything because there's
Good acoustics also.
and it's just, but I never would have thought about that. Like, why would I want a blank wall in my house?
Yeah.
The 25 plus audition tapes that I've had.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and then also I also sort of feel like there's something to be said for somebody walking into a room and doing something and doing a live audition for a show that is going to then be live, because that you're seeing what you're going to get there,
Yeah.
the nerves aren't there when you're taping yourself, and it's gonna be the best of the best when you're getting these videotapes of people.
Yeah.
So
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. And all of those things ended up being givens for us, right? Like we knew the process, we knew what was expected, we knew. I've been thinking a little bit about what this post world's going to look like. I mean, I'm happy that I don't have to be the person to make any decisions about anything. I'm just going to watch it happen from afar. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where does the world go from here? Like, are we going to get to see Hamilton?
I hope so.
I
I
hope
saved
so.
my ticket money.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so too, because I think there have been so many different things that have happened in the world, whether it was the Great Depression or like significant moments in time that the performing arts has been able to, help tell that story in a healing way. So I always wonder, like, how many people are writing the COVID musical right now, but it's really like, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see like all of the things that we knew for sure before about this profession. What is it going to look like after this is over?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's nice about it is I don't have to have an answer right now, so it's good. All right. Well, thank you, Nikole, for spending time talking to me and telling me your story.
Thank you for having me.
And hanging. I miss you. I miss like being with you. We will commute again.
We'll have to make like plexiglass bubbles that we can like wheel into Starbucks.
No joke, at my Starbucks, the drive-through that I go to, I know you all care about this, the drive-through that I go to, they have plexiglass set up in between the baristas.
Oh, I see. I haven't gone into one. I've
I
only.
go in, I can see it in the drive-through window.
I'll have to try and peek the next time I go through.
I don't miss the commute. I'll tell you that. I really don't miss having to commute places. But
However, I used to get a lot of my vocal practice done in the car, so I've sort of trailed off on that because I don't go anywhere.
yeah, I hear that. But you will again. We will go places again post one day. So, all right. Well, thank you, Fresh Theater Arts followers. And thank you, Nikole. We are going to go now. So thanks, everybody. Bye.